Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Tam McManus are here with me. Delighted to have your company as we look back over a dramatic weekend, the battle for top six and who just misses out. We'll discuss that. First of all, I've got to say congratulations to Arbroath. They are the winners of League One. 11 points the gap between them and Cove Rangers. Only 3 games remaining now, so well done to David Gold and Colin Hamilton as well for securing that title. And there's a few other titles that will be decided sooner rather than later. Here's what's coming up on the menu.
Coming up on today's show, brought to you by Arnold Clark Rewards. Barry Ferguson admits that his side should be pleased with their performance despite not coming away from Pittodrie with maximum points. Brendan Rodgers states he will be Celtic manager next season unless told otherwise. Stephen Robinson says reaching the top 6 for a third consecutive season is the greatest achievement of his career. And finally, Neil Critchley admits Hearts simply weren't good enough on Saturday afternoon at Fir Park as the Jambos narrowly missed out on a place in the top 6.
Yeah, so much to talk about. You can give us your point of view on your favourite team, either being critical or indeed positive about them. We'd love to hear from you in the live feed. And over and above that, just breaking, Ruffy, the fixtures coming out bit by bit on top 6 and bottom 6 fixtures. The key one, the opening one, Dundee United will host Celtic on the 26th of April. That's a 12:30 kickoff. Aberdeen against Hibs. St Mirren will host Rangers. And then in the second round of fixtures, it will be Rangers against Celtic. But by that time, Celtic only need a point to secure the title, and that could well happen at Tannadice.
Yeah, I've said this year in, year out, if I was in a team that was going to win the league, I'd prefer to win it at home in front of my own fans. But obviously, that doesn't happen all the time. You want to win it as quick as possible, but you know, I'm sure that who fixed the fixtures? Was it that computer again?
Yeah, computer, and then a little bit of tweaking here and there, because obviously, I don't think you can put into a computer all the people who have self-interest in these situations, Tam.
No, you can't. It's obviously you're going to get your X amount of home and away games, Peter, and looking from a Hibs point of view, it's a real tough one to start off, but. Aberdeen away, Hibs are 3 points behind them, I think. If they can go up there and win, then I think they would have third in the bag. I don't see Dundee United beating Celtic. So, yeah, and St Mirren play Rangers. So, obviously, the bottom 6 ones have to come out as well. There's some big fixtures down there. But I would expect Celtic to get the point and win the league in that game.
Yeah, give us your thoughts on that as far as the fixtures are concerned. Great to hear from so many of you on our feed. Tommy Adams, as ever, from the sunny shores of Thailand. He's always been with us over the 13 years, has Tommy, and we're delighted that he's sticking with us, Ruffy.
Yeah, it's great, but it's another venue, that given the chance to visit would be I think we'd all really appreciate that, to go over there. It's a lovely country with a lot of tradition.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Ruffy. A great insight there from Ruffy, who also is doing PLZ, the travel show, at midnight tonight. So that's absolutely fantastic. And of course, as ever, if it had, a significance, then Rangers against Celtic might not have been the second game, but there's no real edge to it other than maybe Barry Ferguson, off the back of what happens in the Europa League match, might be looking and saying this could be a real marker for any new investors, any takeover, any board that's looking and saying, okay, let's not look further afield, let's look to the homegrown man who's proved he's worthy of becoming Rangers manager.
Yeah, listen, I think that Barry will be, that's obviously a fixture that he'll be looking at. He's obviously won at Parkhead. If he beats Celtic at home, then, he puts himself in the frame. Unfortunately, he's not been getting great results domestically at Rangers, but I don't think that's on him. I think that's the players, Peter. So, yeah, I think the second game, listen, Celtic will be smarting from the last few games against Rangers. They'll be wanting to put that right under Brendan Rodgers. So, listen, I don't think there's anything, you can't get an old firm dead rubber, but as far as they go, Peter, there's not really a lot on that game.
Yeah, okay. Give us your thoughts on those early fixtures that we mentioned. Now let's look towards what happened over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Here are the results from the weekend. Celtic 5, Kilmarnock 1, Dundee United 1, St Johnstone 0, Motherwell 0, Hearts 0, St Mirren 3, Ross County 2, Aberdeen 2, Rangers 2, and Hibs 4, Dundee 0. And I have to say, first and foremost, congratulations to St Mirren. Third year on the trot. It's a tremendous achievement for St Mirren to get top 6 once more because of what happened at Fir Park when there was a goalless draw. St Mirren with that 3-2 win, securing top 6. Here's how the table panned out with Celtic in first, Rangers, then Hibs with a 3-point advantage over Dundee United and Aberdeen. It's St Mirren, Hearts, Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Ross County, Dundee and St Johnstone. And from Hearts down to St Johnstone, that's your bottom 6. So let's first of all concentrate on the positive, Ruffy, which is St Mirren, 3-2, an unbelievable result. And, you know, to get that win with the budget they're on, to go above Hearts and secure the 6th place is fantastic.
Yeah, they've had a fantastic season. You know, they had a lot of sort of a turmoil at the beginning of the season, a couple of players, you know, having to be released, you know. And I think if you cast your mind back, I think for a long, long time, St Mirren were on the end of VAR, you know, for a lot of number of points. So, but they dug in there. The manager's always been positive after games. The fans have been right behind their team, and to win it the way they did, you know, with scoring just in the last couple of minutes of the game, the whole place erupted. And you could see the celebrations outside, how much it meant to everybody.
It is one of those situations, Tam, where you actually, you've got the tranny on and you're just wondering what's happening elsewhere. It was in Hearts' own hands and they blew it big time, and St Mirren, with Roland Dewey scoring the winner, took full advantage.
Yeah, they did. Listen, it was obviously Hearts will be bitterly disappointed. It was in their hands to go and win, and they didn't do that. But St Mirren, you'd fancy them to beat Ross County at home, but they made hard work of it. I thought Ross County played really well. A couple of great goals from St Mirren from the edge of the box. The goalkeeper was poor on the one that got played through. I thought he's got to be braver. I thought he bottled it, to be honest, and the boy put it in the back of the net. But
a younger's goal.
Yeah. I thought he's got to come out and be more dominant, Peter. If he comes out and screams and dives at the player's feet, then he probably doesn't score. So, but getting the goal in the last minute, brilliant for St Mirren. As Ruffy said there, you know, the 3 players, I think, disciplinary reasons had to release. They started the season slowly because they were in Europe. A lot of games at the start of the season they've probably been in before a lot of clubs, and they're probably running in fumes just now. And just to get into that top 6 for Stephen Robinson 3 years in a row, you know, he's a fantastic manager. And you know, talking about guys being up for manager of the year, he's got to be in the shake-up as well because of the budget they've got and because of how the season's unfolded, particularly at the start of the season. To get in the top 6 in the last day of the season is phenomenal for St Mirren.
And as you mentioned there, Stephen Robinson, the St Mirren boss, acknowledges that the Saints always seem to do it the hard way.
Win the game, get 41 points, it's a huge achievement. What happens after that, we're not in control of. So that's what we concentrated on when we scored the 3rd goal. I did ask the question. And that was panic stations. So I'm not going to lie. Yeah, there was all right decisions after that. But listen, we managed the game, and then the boys told me that the Hearts game was finished with a minute to go. So you're hoping you don't concede, but this is St Mirren, this is us. We do things the hard way. So we were delighted for the final whistle.
Yeah, he's a good manager, Ruffy, and I think St Mirren appreciate what they've got. Yeah,
I think any supporter at St Mirren who've been there a long time will know there's been a lot of turmoil behind the scenes. Obviously, the board's been taken over a couple of times. You know, they were unsettled for a long, long time. Obviously, changed managers, but now they've got the right manager who's winning games. And I think that I've just sent to Tam there. I think the players that he's managed to bring in, whoever his contact is, they're quality players. The boy O'Hara was out for a large part of the season, I know, but he come back again. I just think they're very good to watch. They can play it short, they can play it long. You know, he's tactically very aware of any of the teams that he comes up against, and I'm sure if you ask a lot of the other teams in the division, they're very, very difficult to overcome.
Yep. Congratulations to Stephen Robinson and St Mirren, a tremendous achievement. As for Ross County, they battled away, knowing full well they would be in the bottom 6, something that Don Cowie is well prepared for.
Yeah, because like I say, they're disappointed right now, but we'll look at the positives of that. We'll have to get ourselves ready. See what the fixture list brings and how it looks. We know, the job at hand. 5 big games, important games. It's so tight in that area. We've faced it before. We've got experience of it, and we just need to get ready for it again.
Yeah, so Ross County know what they have to do. They've been sliding of late, Ruffy, so we might actually be proved to be correct in our predictions, which was St Johnstone to go down and Ross County in the playoff.
Yeah, but I think there's still a lot of games to be played. I think Ross County and St Johnstone are still fighting for their life. I think they're just not getting the results just now. But I think the both of them will think now going into the split with Kilmarnock, the state Kilmarnock's in, and Dundee, if they can drag Motherwell into it as well. I think they've still got a fighting chance because they've got to win game. 3 points can, when it comes to the split, 3 points can be vital to anybody.
Yeah, so from that game at St Mirren's ground to Fir Park, where basically there was another permutation. If St Mirren had lost to Ross County, there was an opportunity and an opening for Motherwell if they were to defeat Hearts to go top 6. But Hearts had destiny in their own hands, a win for them, and they were in the top 6. Something that I think a number of the Hearts fans travelling to Fir Park were hoping that was going to be the case. They're quite confident that was going to be the case, but it didn't materialise. I was there at Fir Park in one of the worst games I've witnessed in a long time. Hearts were absolutely woeful, and Motherwell not too great either, but I think from Hearts' point of view, when you consider the budget, I just thought they were absolutely woeful. And over and above that, if we're talking about Jamestown Analytics, and I've heard a few would-be journalists talking about maybe it's just the older pundits who don't get what Jamestown Analytics is all about and it's forward thinking. Well, if you haven't got players that can actually play, Jamestown Analytics isn't worth the paper it's written on, Tam, because I haven't seen anything that's changed in that Hearts side in the way that Neil Critchley has set them out. He dropped Shanklin, possibly the guy who can get you the goals, to the bench again, and he comes on right at the death and misses the ultimate chance with near enough the last kick of the ball. But other than that, Tam, they were absolutely rank rotten.
Yeah, you were at the game, obviously. I've seen the highlights. It didn't seem as if there was many chances at all in the game. And when you look at a game where both teams have got to win, that's disappointing. I think Motherwell, both teams deserve to be in the bottom 6, but I think Motherwell particularly, I don't think they've been great this season. I think they definitely deserve, but Hearts have blown it. The last 2 weeks, they've lost to Dundee United and picked up a point, 1 point for 6. It's not good enough, and I think Neil Critchley's under pressure now, Peter, from a lot of Hearts supporters. I think that the budget, the squad, the size of the club, listen, we all know the money that the foundation of Hearts, the fans put into that. They've got a massive say, and he's not won a big game yet, Peter. He's not beat Hibs yet. He's not won a big game yet. That was a big game, didn't win it. Didn't win the big games in Europe when he had to qualify. And I think he's under pressure now. And I think he'll see the season out. I'm not sure he'll be the Hearts manager next season, Peter.
What you mean that? Well, why let him see out the season?
I don't know, Peter. But
he's not even going to get an Edinburgh derby to try and win some of them over again.
I think these last 5 games are very big for him. I think that they need to go and win 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 and show that they're building towards next season, Peter. If they have a really poor end to the season, in terms of losing games in that bottom 6, I think they'll change the manager in the summer, Hearts.
Ruffy?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there have been big games out there that they haven't come up to the mark. Obviously, there are important games. It was interesting, Craig Gordon saying we don't want to get dragged into the relegation. That's what happens when you don't win games. They're only 6 points away from being in the trouble. If you don't win your first 2 games, you're in it.
Over and above that, Ruffy, the biggest game they've got coming up is the semi-final in the Scottish Cup. They've got to try and get past Aberdeen, and that increases the pressure as well.
I think he's got to win that game, Peter, Neil Critchley, for me.
Well, the point I've got about it all is sometimes you've got to see evidence of a change. There's been all this hullabaloo about, they're embracing the Brighton involvement, the Jamestown Analytics, how they're going to look for specific players and how they're going to play a specific way. It hasn't materialised under them. And by the way, before people start saying, well, it needs time, fine, but he's got a bigger budget than St Mirren by some distance, Ruffy, and St Mirren are in the top 6.
Yeah, and they've got 18,000 supporters behind them, every week looking for success, demanding to be in finals, demanding to be in top sixes, demanding to beat Rangers and Celtic at least once a season, and that just hasn't happened. I agree with Tam. I think if he doesn't win the semi-final and struggles in the split, they will look for somebody else.
Over and above that, Motherwell, maybe it was one of those outside bets that they were going to make it into the top six. Michael Wimmer's got a job of his own to do, recruiting his own players in the summer transfer window. He was happy with the point, and Neil Critchley was just keen to emphasise that this result is not one that will define them.
This point was very important. I felt also from the spectators that you could push forward, but in the end it was 3-2 for St. Mirren, and for me then it's better to take a point than to get a counter attack and to lose the game, because this point is very important, because now we are 4 in front to Ross County and to Kilmarnock and not 3, and with our, I don't know to say it in German, but the difference from the goals is we are not really good. So it was a very, very important point for us.
No, I don't think there's a lot gone wrong. It's just, they say, we've shown a lot of progress, and this game can't define us as a group or our season. It's bitterly disappointing today. We weren't good enough to win the game. I still think we were a better team and created the best chances, but sometimes that's football, and we have to respond from that. We have to get over it.
Well, the one key element of this for me, Robbie, was full time. I mean, the players, this usual thing that annoys you, annoys me. I don't know about you, Tam, but this let's go up and applaud our fans for all coming through. And I have to tell you, to a man, woman, and quite a few of the ultras who are, boys, they were just absolutely letting them have it. They were booing them. They were telling them where to go. They were having none of it. It was just a team of underachievers. And I watched Hearts against Dundee United the week before as well. You've got to have a go. You've got to have a go in the last game. You've got to be positive. You've got to want to play a certain way. I don't even know what his style is.
Yeah, obviously the players should know the style that he's wanting to play and the way they want to play, but I just think a couple of years ago, Hearts had a pretty solid goalkeeper, pretty solid back four. Their midfield had good players in there, and obviously Lawrence Shanklin scoring goals for fun. That's not happened at all, and as we all know, you need a striker, particularly in a Hearts team, scoring 20 goals at least, and you'll have a really, really successful season, but that hasn't happened at all, and he just seems to have lost the plot a wee bit with the team selection. I don't think he knows himself who the best players are to put in the 11.
I think...
Peter, sorry, these were the games that Shanklin was nicking a goal last season. That's how they finished third.
Yeah.
I thought he carried them last season. I don't think Hearts were great last season either, but these are the games, 0-0 away to Motherwell, he would score 1-0. Last week against Dundee United, Peter, maybe score late on one each, get a point, and without a proven goal scorer, Hearts just don't look a good side at all.
No, I didn't see a style in them whatsoever, and sometimes I just think you can always start to tell when a manager just starts talking in riddles and you're wondering where they're going with it. Huge, the fixtures coming up for them. Just before we move on to Aberdeen against Rangers, here's a look once more at the top end of the Scottish Premiership fixtures, the post-split fixtures in week 1. It'll be Dundee United against Celtic at Tannadice. Then it's St Mirren against Rangers, Aberdeen against Hibs, Hearts against Dundee in the bottom 6, Kilmarnock against Ross County, and Motherwell against St Johnstone. And that is not something that the Hearts fans wanted to see at Tynecastle, playing in the bottom 6. And certainly those games are huge. But of course, the Scottish Cup semi-final is massive for them now, and they always take a huge support. And if it doesn't go according to plan, I think quite a lot of them will let the board and, of course, Neil Critchley know exactly what they think about him. If you are a Jambo, what do you think? Will it be time up for Neil Critchley, or does he deserve that transfer window in the summer with, of course, all those analytics to offer him players that will be able to play the way he or indeed the board think they should be playing? Give us your thoughts on that. OK, we've had a look at the post-split fixtures on week 1. Incidentally, Rangers against Celtic will be week 2. Aberdeen against Rangers, it didn't disappoint. As ever, you got to hand it to him. Barry, still, I think it was one of the reasons why we really enjoyed his company, Ruffy, and loved him as part of the PLZ team, because he liked to noise up. And he made Connor Barron the captain.
That was a strange one. I just think maybe he's thinking, get a wee bit more out of him coming back to his old club, and he get booed incessantly the whole game, as expected. I thought he had a decent game actually, but yeah, looking at the team that Rangers put out, it was clear that they had one eye on the game on Thursday night. I watched the Atletico Bilbao game last night as well, and they again rested players come back and win the game, but it's just a massive game for both clubs. I thought Rangers at 2-0 down looked dead and buried with 10 men, but you've got to give them credit. He did bring a couple of players on, Taverner to come on, and he brought on Dessers and guys like that, and they got that goal. Hadji, fantastic goal at the end. But Aberdeen will be kicking themselves. I mean, how they didn't win that game, Peter, with the chances they had. A wee bit unfortunate with the Nisbet goal, but with the chances they had, they should have had Rangers dead and buried. And you're always at risk at the end of the game of losing a goal if you're only one goal up. But disappointing for Aberdeen, 2 points dropped for them, but a battling draw for Rangers, and I think they showed at the end how much it meant to them and the celebrations on the bench. Were
you happy or unhappy with the goalkeeper for Aberdeen, with the Rangers goalkeeper with Clarkson's free kick? I thought it was an absolute belter, but I'm just wanting to get you from a keeper's perspective. It was very much, as everybody said, a James Maddison replica, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, he positioned himself for the ball coming in the box. I think you have to give the credit to Clarkson. He hit the ball with pace. It was going right in the corner. I think Kelly did his best to get there. I think he did get his hand to it, but no, I wouldn't take anything away for the free kick taker. I thought it was a terrific goal.
Yeah, no criticism of the keeper.
At all.
OK, any argument with the second yellow for McCausland?
No. Again, Peter, I thought he was poor. I mean, he's not a Rangers player for me, McCausland. I'm not wanting to criticise him as a young player, but
he's just tough.
Okay.
I
don't think he's good enough to play for Rangers. I think that's pretty clear, and it remains to be seen if he's still there next season. But let the team down with two stupid lunges and put them up against it. But no complaints. I don't think anybody had.
Yeah, there was a goal that had that feel of Alistair Johnstone at Easter Road. So, Ruffy, what did you make of it this time? The official on the far side put his flag up, and that was the key to this one as well.
Yeah, I don't know that for this one. I think the camera got more a proper look at it. I think the one that with Celtic, the camera didn't seem to be in the right angle, but for this one, the camera was there, and I thought immediately. I didn't think it was debatable. I thought it was out.
Yeah, I thought it was
clearly out, Peter.
Yeah.
I thought it was clearly out.
Yeah, there's more of a defence of saying the match official said it's out. So if there's definitive evidence to contradict it, then you would have said
definitely a better angle than the one at Easter Road. The Easter Road seemed to be further away. This one, you could zoom it in. I thought the ball was out.
No argument with it.
No argument for me, no. I thought the ball was out.
OK, the one thing that I thought was, again, you've got to give Rangers credit, because it was one of those games where you get off your seat from time to time. Dessers hits the post, you think the chance is gone, and then Hadji's goal was just a worldie.
Yeah, he's got that in the lock. He's a very good player, Peter. I know there's been rumours that I think he will be off in the summer. I don't think he's been treated great with Rangers, to be honest, over the piece. I think he's well within his right to move on at the end of the season if he wants to. But wonderful talent, great ball, great finish. Just doesn't try and blast it, just curls into the top corner. And there's the last kick of the ball, and Rangers got the point at the end. But going to the Nisbet goal, Peter, I thought that was a wee bit harsh. I know by the letter of law, listen, it comes off his hand, and if it comes off your hand and you gain an advantage and put the ball in the net, then it's a foul.
Yeah.
He doesn't know anything about it. It's just a ball that's smashed off his hand and it lands to him. So I thought Aberdeen were a wee bit unfortunate with that, but it's the rules, Peter. As soon as I seen it again, I thought that's not going to be a goal.
Please don't call for a rule change. We have pundits doing that because they're not happy with them.
No.
I don't want you to do that, Tam.
I
read your tweet midweek as well, and I thought to myself, he's just raised...
I'm not super alley. But no, listen, I think that By the letter of the law, you've got to chop the goal off, and he's unlucky a wee bit. I thought he was unlucky.
Yeah, I thought it was a foul because of the fact that the weight comes off his arm,
It drops to him.
it drops to him. It puts him in the perfect position, Ruffy.
So does it, when it's for you, your hand in an unnatural position doesn't count? Because his hand wasn't in an unnatural. He had his hand in here when it hit.
But once it hit,
It hit Godjick's hand at St Mirren, the exact same, and he got away with it.
Yeah, consistency.
So do you give it? You don't give it to the forward, but you let the defender away with it.
I'm sure there are greater technicalities to the argument.
because he gained an advantage by putting the ball in the net that landed to him. I remember the very first week VR came in England, one of the first weeks, and it was Tottenham against Man City, and I was sitting in the pub, and the ball came in and it hit Jesus' hand and dropped, and he put it in the net. And Man City, I thought he won 3-2, and we were all celebrating in the pub because we thought we're coupons up. I went for a pee, come back in, looked at the board, and it was still 2 each, and I went, what's going on? And I went, oh, that goal's been chopped off. And then it was the exact same thing as Nisbet. Boxes came in and somebody rattled it off him, it bounced about, hit him and went in. And because he gained an advantage, the goal was chopped off. Which that's the rule.
Yeah, Jesus' mum pronounces it differently from Tam, but Jesus just somehow managed to get that ball miraculously into the net with his arm. Still wasn't a goal though. Barry Ferguson, no doubt. The great thing is I love looking at the feed sometimes, because there are some people just, tribalism exists everywhere. And as soon as we mention Barry's name, everybody goes mental. But over the piece, even with the changes, and there were a lot of them, the Rangers manager Barry Ferguson pleased with the point. Jimmy Tilleen, not so.
Ross gets sent off, and then you have to go and kind of go back to what we've done in Thursday night. Have to make a few changes at half time, and I thought the changes certainly kicked us on a bit. So yeah, overall, I'm never really happy drawing a game, but under the circumstances, we've got to go back down the road. Pretty pleased.
Yeah, and if that's him happy, Jimmy Tilleen, 2 goals to the good, and then playing against 10 men, and you only get a point. I don't think the Dons fans were happy of how it finished.
It's easy to forget everything when you lose that goal today, that everything is bad, but it's not. It's still a lot of good things. The result was not good for us today, but the performance, the first half, some parts, how we create some chances in the second half. Then of course we have to do better in other parts also, when have we allowed the transitions today, and be more, when you have next time, if it happens, 11 versus 10, we can't be so passive.
I think he'll take a lot of criticism from the Aberdeen fans for his substitutions, Peter.
Yeah.
I thought his substitutions were poor. I thought they were negative in terms of the game. And I think that cost him in the end. And I think that, listen, he's getting a lot of credit this season, Jimmy Tilleen. They're in the mix for third place, Peter, but I thought his substitutions were poor. That cost him the game.
Well, the one thing that'll start to turn, and we get a lot of Aberdeen fans on our programme mentioning about Jimmy Tilleen, the fantastic run to start, then falling off a cliff with that dismal run. But I think, over the next couple of weeks, it's absolutely massive on the perception around Jimmy Tilleen for me, because there's a cup semi-final and there's also Aberdeen against Hibs, which at home, Hibs have got the advantage, the points in the bag, Tam, but this could all crash and burn for the Dons.
Yeah, it could. Listen, they could finish third, they could finish fifth, Peter. I think fifth, with the start they've had, would be a really poor end. And obviously the semi-final if they get beaten that as well. So, but it could be a great season. They could still finish third, Peter, and get to a final, potentially win a cup. So yeah, it's a massive couple of weeks, but I was watching the game and I'm thinking, Shinnie was playing really, really well wide left, and he brought him into the middle of the park, and just different wee tweaks he done within the game. I thought, nah, it's not helping. It's not helping you go and win the game and get the next goal. So but I think if I was an Aberdeen fan, I would be disappointed in losing the game. Losing the 2 points, but I'd be questioning some of his decisions tactically.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, Ruffy, you know what it's like. We get lots of people. We try and read out the very good points that are made on a regular basis. Sometimes we get a few. Can you say nutcases without offending people? But sometimes,
as long as you don't name them.
We do get people who can't post anything decent. Although this one I think is very good. It's 1967. He obviously is a Celtic fan. He says, hit Jesus in the hand, went for a pee, classy lad. Not really happy with you, Tam. Not really happy with you as a pundit. You need to have a long, hard look at yourself. So next for Rangers is quite simply a massive game. Massive game for Barry. I don't know about you, Ruffy, but I think Rangers have got a right good chance here because, Tam, what did you make of Athletic Bilbao last night? I mean, big changes, and they'll change again at home.
I seen their team, and I thought the Williams brothers were on the bench. The rest of the full team, they went 1-0 down, and then they brought them up. It was similar to Rangers. They'd have to bring in guys on to try and win the game, and they eventually come back and won it. But for the first half of the game, I was sitting going, fancy Rangers here. But then the second half, I thought when they clicked, they looked a really good side. So, listen, they don't usually concede a lot and score a lot, but I think the first goal in this game is massive. I think if Rangers get it, I think the pressure's on them, Peter. I think they're favourites to go through. They're one of the favourites to win it. There's not a lot of pressure on Rangers, but if Rangers get the first goal, it'll be interesting to see how they react. If Athletic Bilbao get it, I think they're going to win the game comfortably.
I'm going extra time and then penalties.
I think Athletic Bilbao will just nick it 2-1.
Ruffy?
I'm going to go Atletico 2-0.
2-0, okay. Give us your thoughts on it. It's the Europa League match. It's the second leg, a chance to get to the semi-final. Can Barry Ferguson pull off one of those magnificent European results that Rangers have been famed for over the last few years? Give us your thoughts on that as well. Now, Celtic 5, Kilmarnock 1. And it was one of those situations where, let's not have one challenger for goal of the season, let's have a couple. Celtic hammered Kelly.
Yeah, they did. I felt as if Kilmarnock had to get through the first 20 minutes. I felt as if Brendan last week, his words after the game against St Johnstone, losing that game, I felt we were going to see a fired up Celtic team. I think he did words this week in training. He made a couple of changes, he brought a couple of players back in, Taylor, Forrest, and I just thought they clicked. And as I said, 4-0 down after 25 minutes. I was down at the races watching it, and the goals kept coming through, and I went, Kilmarnock could get a right shellacking here, but they kept it semi-respectable in the end. But I think when Celtic play are in that mood, that's what the Celtic fans and Brendan Rodgers expect from a Celtic team, and I don't think we've seen that enough this season, Peter.
It's amazing, Ruffy. I don't know if you've picked up on it, by the way, but so he was at the Scottish Grand National, right? He then was able to watch Athletic Bilbao, and then he stayed up till about 1 o'clock in the morning to watch the golf, and he clearly has got 5 different screens. He's got the bookies on phone. I mean, what a life this guy leads. I mean, I don't know where the wife fits in.
Ruffy was trying to phone me last night too. Who we trying to?
I was trying to phone you to see if you could have a bet for me on the Open. But I'm glad
the Masters.
The Masters.
I thought, wow, he's thinking far ahead, isn't he?
I'm glad I never got you because my man failed miserably the last hole. I don't know what he was doing. But, did you manage to find the toilets at the National? Tent,
Yeah, absolutely.
It was the owners and trainers.
That's what happens when you're a big celebrity now. He's got tips that he's firing out, of course, annoying tips as well, and opinions on his Twitter account. Don't be looking for an answer back from him, though. He just throws the grenade and then runs away. But I just thought Celtic, interestingly enough, can I just pay tribute to James Forrest, Ruffy? Sure. Because James Forrest came in at the tail end of last season, made a huge difference. I just think when you think about his contribution to Celtic and also his medal haul, it is really, really impressive.
Is it 15 years he's been there? That's an incredible. And to equal, I think he's equaling Bobby Lennox. It's absolutely, and it's just a model professional, to be at a club and maintain that level of performance all through your career. I think in the early days, European football, he was fantastic in it. And he's just like Callum McGregor, he's just steeped in the history of the club. And I can't remember him letting Celtic down at all in any big games. You can call on him for the start, you can bring him on with 20 minutes to go, and you never hear him murmur at him, you never hear him complaining, you never see him in the papers or anything. He just loves winning trophies.
I think he's what you would call, along with Callum McGregor, the medal haul is impressive. But for James Forrest, I thought Ruffy made a good point there. You never see him, controversially, in trouble.
No, he's never in any bother, Peter. I don't think he's on social media. I don't think that he's ever been in any bother. Neil Lennon obviously was in the show and consummate professional.
Yeah.
First in, last away, not a moment's problem with him. Coachable, low maintenance, just gets on with his job. And good to see him back in the team. He played well. And I don't know what's going to happen next season with James Forrest, but listen, the amount of trophies he's won at Celtic, and he's got to go down as a club legend for me. The longevity of his career at Celtic, and could pick up another treble this season.
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen with Brendan Rodgers. It certainly gathered a bit of pace when you listen to Brendan's press conferences week in, week out. Will he be here next season? Well, this is what he had to say after that emphatic 5-1 win. It's not something the club or I need to worry about now. This is about getting the job done, and we'll see where we are at the end of the season. For any avoidance of doubt, I promised unless I was removed, I'd be here for 3 years minimum. So nothing changes. There's absolutely no doubt. Unless Desmond tells me differently in the summer, I will be excited and ready for the beginning of the new season. So that's his take on it. Ruffy, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was wee Gordon Strachan that we were talking to one stage, and he said 4 years. 4 years at a top club like Celtic. You should actually think about moving on, but obviously you have a great deal of success in the 4 years. There has to be something bigger at the end of it. But it must take a lot out of you. I don't think people realise, being the manager of Celtic or Rangers, what it must take out of you. Your family life and everything that goes with it. So I think it depends on the individual. Yeah, but I thought it was an interesting point, I think wee Gordon said.
Yeah, I think he'll be here for next season, and I think the point that I think Stilian Petrov was making today ahead of the Cup semi-finals was that Brendan Rodgers has clearly laid down a marker. If he's going to complete the full 3 years of his contract, then in this next season coming up, he's certainly making sure that the board must know by now he wants a higher calibre of player brought in.
It was really clever from a strong manager. Asking for players. I think that's what all the managers do. They're just asking for players. But I think with the new format of the European football, Brendan feels that, if he had more quality, more players, good players, then he can do even more in the European football. With his comments and what he says, he tried to challenge the board. And now the board need to answer. And what they have to do is just go and spend money.
And that's what he wants. He wants, knockout against Bayern Munich, which I thought was, football of the highest quality. I thought Celtic were absolutely magnificent, so unlucky to get a draw in that match. That's the best I've seen from, Brendan Rodgers, any team that's played in Europe.
Yeah, I agree with that, Peter. I think that the last time was maybe Martin O'Neill's team. I think they beat Juventus 4-3 at home. I think that was one of the best performances I've seen from Celtic in the Champions League. Obviously getting to the final of the UEFA Cup, but yeah, I thought there was a brilliant performance over 2 legs against Bayern Munich. But if you want to get to that level again next season, you've got to spend again. And I think Stilian Petrov makes a good point. He has been clever here, challenging the board, because he knows it's going to take another 20, 30, 40 million pound, in terms of improving the squad to go and get to that level again. It's going to be the same format in the Champions League next season. Celtic, I thought, got a wee bit fortunate with the fixtures this season. Not taking anything away from them. I thought they get the nice fixtures at home, and they went and took advantage of that. But for Celtic to go and do it again, he needs to strengthen the squad again, because I seen Adam Ida at the weekend there. I don't know he doesn't look the same player, Pete. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence. Engels is still to convince me in terms of £11 million. Maybe he'll be better next season with a season under his belt, Peter. But those guys have got to come in and be standouts for that type of money, and I don't think they have. So I think that Brendan next season will be looking again, shopping in that market, 9, 10, 15 million pound players. There's no point in signing 1 and 2, 3 million pound players, squad players, Peter. That's not going to get you at that level again.
I have a bit of sympathy also for Greg Taylor, because if you were looking at a boy, I mean, there's murmurings now from Brendan that they're going to try and keep him, albeit he knows he's going to be back up to Kieran Tierney. But if you think about the boy that they signed from Kilmarnock, Ruffy, This is a boy who's managed to get himself into the international scene. Certainly, you couldn't look and say, oh, there's a run of 5 or 6 games where he's been poor domestically. If anything, the one thing where I think the Celtic fans have been thinking he's been found wanting is in the European stage. But that's levels. That's just the nature of the game.
Yeah, that's because when Celtic go into European football, they're defending a lot of times against big teams. When he's in the Premiership, Celtic are going forward all the time. I think the weekend was something like 88 possession of the ball. So he's going forward all the time. He's not having to defend that many times in a season with Celtic. And what he does in the Celtic team going forward is quality. He gets forward into good positions. He puts quality balls into the box. So for a Premiership player, he's outstanding. I don't think they need anything better than that. I just think when he goes into the European side of it, he's got to show that he can defend better. And I would put Robertson into that category as well. When he plays with Liverpool, he's on the front foot. He's going forward all the time. He's on the halfway line, going into the opposition. But when he's going back the way, his defending, and it's, you don't expect him to be really good at defending with the quality they have going forward. But I just think in Europe, I would say he needs a really good fullback, another centre half, and a wide player. And I think when you go into Europe, and if you want to go to big places in Europe, you need a striker with European quality that scores goals in European.
Okay, on the flip side of this, we've had Derek McInnes in here. I think he's a good manager. I think when you have certain key players out of your side, the slide is a painful one. And I'm looking at them and I think they're in trouble.
Oh, they are, Peter. As I said, I just think their home form this season hasn't been as solid. You know, Danny Armstrong was tremendous last season. That was his first goal of the season, Peter. I found that incredible.
Thought it was a cross.
When you look at it was a cross, he's very lucky. But you look at his goals last season, assists. He was a major part in him getting into Europe, and he's not been the same player. He's in the last year of his contract. Maybe, you know, he's on the move somewhere else. But you know, in terms of obviously Mally Watkins has been out injured as well. Vassell's been out injured. Finlay come back in. He's been out injured. So Matty Kennedy, they have been missing some big players, but I've been disappointed with Kilmarnock. I think they've been poor this season, and they are banging the relegation battle. And you know, if they don't sort their home form out, their away from home, they've been poor this season.
Okay, Hibs 4, Dundee 0. You're happy. This is just incredible. David Gray and Tony Docherty contrasting views on the game. David Gray, as you would imagine, so happy. 17 undefeated.
Over the moon, obviously. I think, as you say, great performance, fantastic result. To score 4 goals in the Premier League is very difficult, but delighted with the clean sheet as well. And like you've touched on there, the level of consistency, the level of performance and the effort I'm getting for the players every single day in training and in the games now is incredible, and that's a reflection on 17 games undefeated, which is an incredible achievement.
That has to be a reference point. Hibs' first half has to be a reference point for us, that if we play that way, you know, and I reference the previous 4 games, if we play that way as opposed to the previous 4 games, then we'll give ourselves problems that we don't need to give, because we're a good enough team. You know, I'm really confident in the team. I'm really confident in the players because of what I've seen previously. Today was a surprise for me, I must admit. But then again, when I see the reaction that I get at the start of the second half, that's the team that I want to see, and that's the team that will be prominent for now at the end of the season.
Well, you know, you look at it, Kilmarnock, Ross County, Dundee. I think Motherwell will have enough to keep themselves just above the madness. But those 3 teams are the ones that are going to be really battling it out. I'm still going to stick with Ross County, Tam.
Yeah, as I say, I think Dundee might just scrape it because they've got goals in their team. Obviously, very difficult game out Easter Road yesterday. Hibs are flying, 17 games unbeaten. When they look at the quality of the goals they scored as well, they've got real competition for places, Peter. Kukurevich and Boyle starting, you'd Dwight Gale coming on, Bowie coming on, who scored 2 goals, looked really, really lively.
Yeah, I was speaking to John McGlynn, who knows Kieran Bowie well, and he says he is a future Scotland striker.
I think so, Peter. I think, unfortunately for him, he came in at the start of the season and I think he got injured with Scotland under 21s. He pulled his hamstring. And Hibs have missed him. He's come back into the team and he's been excellent. Peter, he comes off the bench, he makes an impact, and that's what you're wanting from your subs. There's so much competition for places. Nicky Cadden, arguably Hibs' best player this season, can't get in the team now because a beater's in and they're winning. So, yeah, 17 games unbeaten. As I said, if they go 23 games, it's not as if They've beat Celtic, they've beat Rangers, they've beat Hearts. They've beat the big teams in this run. It's not as if they've been scraping points. And I think if you're an Aberdeen fan or a Hibs fan, Peter, you're cursing the bad run you've had, because Rangers have been dreadful this season in the league. Rangers have been there for second place, has been there for the taking for somebody that can go on a consistent run. Because Hibs, I think, have only lost one game more than Rangers this season, and they were bottom of the league for 2 months. So I think you'll be cursing that Aberdeen had the great run, then went on a bad run, and Hibs started poorly. Because if Hibs started well, they'd be challenging for second place now.
Yeah, got to correct you on the Nicky Cadden. I mean, calm down. He's back from an injury. It's not as if he's been kept out of the team.
He's not going to get in there now because Abita's been good.
If it was a choice between Abita and Nicky Cadden, I'd have Cadden all day long, Ruffy. He puts a ball in between the penalty spot and the 6-yard area
both
consistently.
The other Cadden the other day, they're putting it. This is as good a quality ball on his head.
Yeah, and that's your final point on it. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that Cadden's, both of them since they've come in, have been absolutely outstanding.
Is David Gray one of those contenders that you think should be named as a nominee for manager of the year?
Nominee, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, most definitely, yeah.
Who's your 4?
Obviously, Brendan Rodgers, Gray, Robinson.
Yeah.
And probably Tillene.
What?
Yeah.
Jimmy Tillene?
Well, if he finishes in Europe.
Oh, Colleen.
Aberdeen could finish third and win a cup.
He could get in the final.
It's a bit early now, Peter.
Yeah,
John McGlynn's got to be in there.
John
McGlynn's got to be in there.
But wins the Invincibles in League One, and then wins the Championship against the likes of a Partick Thistle, a Nair, a Livingston.
Well, playing good football. You're not putting
I think there is another Manager of the Year award. I don't know who it is that gives it out, but it's not the big one. But he should win the other one. There's 2 Manager of the Years.
He should win the wee crappy jobber one.
I'm not. Don't tell us who the wee crappy one is.
Oh, you should win the Stirlingshire Awards.
If you mention it's the football writers, they'll be on your case.
No.
So don't mention
it's quite an important award, but it's not.
PFA award as a sports writers.
No, it's not the sports writers. It's another award that goes out there.
So it's the Scottish Premier League one.
Is that the one the managers voting? There's one that all the managers vote for.
That's the PFA.
That's the
PFA.
Right. Okay. Anyway, apart from anything else, the Hibbies, I think, will finish third.
Well, as Tam said, they've got to go up to Aberdeen,
That's a big one. The first game is a massive one for them.
They're all big games, That's what's good about the split. They're all capable of beating each other.
Well, he thinks Aberdeen will finish third, so
No,
we
I don't think so.
No, what you going for the Hibs?
Hibs, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Dundee United 1, St Johnstone 0. I just think to some United fans who watch the programme will be looking and saying, well, wait a minute, if he finishes third,
it's a bit early, Peter.
Yeah.
We've obviously got to give an opinion now, but that could change in a couple of weeks, because as I said, Dundee United are still in the mix for third. Really, really vital 3 points. I don't think they've scored tons of goals this season, but they've been pretty difficult to beat, particularly at Tannadice. They're hard to beat, and deservedly won the game. St Johnstone a couple of chances, but great result for Dundee United, keeps them in the mix. A couple of 1-0 wins the last few weeks, away to Hearts and then at home to St Johnstone. So they're staying in there. And as I said, Jim Goodwin's done a tremendous job. And you consider coming up from the Championship, us all know Dundee United are a very big club, but you'd have fancied them maybe to be in a relegation battle this season, but nah, he's recruited well. They've got some really, really good players up there. Greg Dalby's been a standout signing from his goals, and they're solid at the back. So yeah, they're definitely in the mix. In St Johnstone, yeah, I think it's too late for them, Peter. I don't see them making up 5 or 6 points on the teams above them now.
Ruffy?
I thought they were very unfortunate. No,
they did a few chances
again. Dundee United, I thought they looked very good going forward. As I said, they had a few chances. It just wasn't breaking for them. But they're not like down and out for me. They're not like getting thumped by everybody. Obviously they beat Celtic yesterday. They weren't overrun by anybody. So I would still think the manager will think positively enough that they can go into any of the games and win them.
Well, Simo Valakari thinks there's 5 games and it's all up for grabs, and Jim Goodwin just happy the way his side played to get the 3 points.
Well, of course we would like to score more goals and be a little bit more entertaining, but there are 2 sides to the game. One is about being organised, being resilient, protecting your goal, keeping clean sheets, and of course the hardest bit is trying to be a bit more creative and create more clear goal scoring opportunities. But I can't be too critical of the team. another really important result at a really important stage this season.
Not the result what we wanted, but the performance. Everyone saw the performance. Boys can put the performance. The fight is there. Everything is there. Now, 5 games to go. I don't know how you call this. Is this a normal season or regular season? But anyway, before the split, we are now where we are. Would we like to be closer to our opponents? Yes, of course. But we could not get there. Now it's 5 games, and let's see where we go.
Yeah, it's a battle on, and full marks to Simo Valakaria. I think he's been a breath of fresh air coming into our league, and he's made a real battle of it, because at one point we were all writing them off.
Yeah, I think when he came in they were struggling, Peter, so I don't think you can put the entire blame on him. He's not had a full season. He's come in and inherited a team that were struggling, and I think they're playing better football now. I agree with Ruffy, they created opportunities at the weekend. Beating Celtic last week was a massive result for them. And I just think he's a really, really positive coach. And if they do go down, I think he'll dust himself off, and they'll play a good brand of football in the Championship, and they'll come back up, because I think he's proven in his short spell so far that he knows what he's doing. And particularly last week against Celtic, tactically got it spot on. And I think he's a good manager, positive coach, and I think he's been a good addition to Scottish football in terms of the management.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a little footnote I mentioned there. I was talking to John McGlynn. We've got a great mini documentary coming up on Falkirk Bairns to win. At the weekend, they've got a chance to Livingston, of course, playing Ayr United, but on this Saturday it's going to be Falkirk against Wraith Rovers. I'm going to be there with Kerry, Cheryl. We've been putting together a little mini documentary focusing on the great work behind the scenes as well, Ruffy. It's a real family club. The manager, the assistant Paul Smith, and the players. And of course, I was speaking to Scott Arfield. The banter in the dressing room is fantastic. They're all together. They're playing a brand of football, which is a joy to watch for the Bairns fans.
Yeah, they bought into it right from the very beginning of the season. If they do go up, there'll be a big asset to the Premiership, particularly spectator-wise. I think that the crowds that they could get could be up at 10,000. I think they're around about 6, 7, 8 just now for all the big games. So they'll go in there. It'll be a task for them going in there. I think they'll have to obviously up their budget a wee bit and bring in, Premiership players. I'm sure John would do that, if he goes in. But I think the only thing that not miffs me about Falkirk Stadium, I'd love them to build another stand. I think another stand would make that stadium really spectacular. I don't know
if there's something blocking them for doing that.
No. It's the Grangemouth.
No, there is
a temporary stand.
There are plans there to put the stand in place. Obviously, there's financial issues you've got to look at. There's also plans. They can keep the pitch, the artificial pitch, for that year in there, but then 26, 27, they need to then rip it up and put the grass in. So they've got that year to try and, if they stay in the league, to change the surface as well. Speaking to their chief executive, that is all in place for them.
Yeah, listen, they're a very well-run club now. Jamie Swinney, we know him well. He's a very shrewd cookie. The board now are all on the same page. The club was getting run out of the ground for a number of years, Peter. I remember Gary Holt being there and Paul Sheeran and fighting at AGMs, and it was a real
scrapped our academy.
It's been a real mess, Falkirk, and I was lucky enough to play with Falkirk twice, once in the Premier League and once in the Championship. I know how big a club they are. I know that the fans will come flocking out if the team's doing well, and you've seen that this season. They're a big club, and they're getting a great support. So they've been run well off the pitch. They've got a right manager on the pitch. The players are doing well. So it's a real great time to be a Falkirk fan, and winning the league last season in a canter with a great band of football, going to win the Championship comfortably for me this season. John McGlynn has proven that he's an excellent manager as well.
I think your man Martindale at Livingston is tactically trying to play a card here by saying, Falkirk or this, Falkirk or that. They're only 6 points behind. If Falkirk don't win on Saturday, Falkirk have a home game and they win, they could be 3 points behind them. I still think Livingston have got something to offer here.
Yeah, but there's a better goal difference for Falkirk as well, Ruffy. So, I'm not disputing the fact, but all favours at this moment. It's heavily in Falkirk's hands to do this. To be perfectly honest with you, I just think they've got enough in reserve to actually the way they've been playing football. Unless you're going to tell me differently, and you think
no, I think they've got Wraith Rovers are still fighting for that 4th place. And I think Falkirk's last game's against Partick Thistle, at Partick Thistle.
Yeah.
They'll be fighting for their lives as well, you know, to get that 4th place. So I still think there's not all to play for. I mean, Falkirk are sitting in the prime candidate, but you still have to win the games.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that.
I think if you're 6 points ahead with 3 games left, it would take an almighty collapse for Falkirk now.
Yeah. You predicting them not to win it?
No, I'm saying it'll be tight. I'm saying it could be tight.
Is this another one of your roughy-isms?
No, it could be tight, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let's wait until after this weekend's results.
Yeah, absolutely, which is why we're at Falkirk, to see if they're going to win the title there, and the celebrations that will undoubtedly start. The goal difference at the moment, Ruffy, is Falkirk 40, Livingston 21.
So I went lose their last 2 games.
Yeah, in a monumental swing. So I think it's fair to say, I don't know if I'm putting my neck on the line here, Ruffy.
You're just going along to celebrate the weekend.
I'm just going to Falkirk to join in the title celebrations. Listen, hopefully, if you like football, and we try and cover as many games and as many teams as possible, we try and be as balanced as we possibly can and offer you an opinion. And then, you know, it's up to you. You can agree with it, disagree with it. That's the joy of football. It's only a game. It's not life or death. We want people to come on our feed and enjoy it. We want people on the podcast. We meet them, Ruffy, and we want them to say, yeah, we agreed with you on that, or we disagree. That's the joy of football. I wouldn't take it all too seriously.
I think that at the end of the season is what playing football is all about. If you're in a winning side and winning the league, or the celebrations for the fans that have been there right for the very start of the season, I think it's a great time of the season.
For people like ourselves, Ruffy, who've only got one television, we'll obviously be watching some great games this week. Obviously, we're going to watch Athletic Bilbao. We've got reports coming up from Blair, our reporter, PLZ Soccer, wherever you are, we are. And Blair will be out there in Spain. Can you come up with a better catchphrase? Have you got a better one? So anyway,
in Germany last year, that was honestly every 2 minutes we were talking. You had to finish with that wee quote.
Well, we're there, weren't we? I mean, if you think about it, BBC, Sky, budgets that could sink the Titanic, you know, TNT, Premier.
So Blair's over in Spain now?
And Blair's over in Spain. We're covering Scottish football. So he's on his way.
England with the fans and that as well.
He's on his way to. Well, he certainly didn't hire him for his Athletic Bilbao knowledge.
I take it you said him on Monday.
Yeah.
So was he getting the train for Central Station somewhere?
He's gone via Finrap. Can I just say something? He's going via Switzerland.
In a boat.
I mean, honestly, if he meets James Coburn on a bike, I'll not be surprised. That's for people over the age of 50 who've seen The Great Escape. That's all I'm saying to you.
Did he make it?
He did, actually.
It was Donald Pleasance.
He didn't make it in the plane with James Gardner. Anyway, sorry, Tam, we're digressing for a movie that you see every Christmas in the 70s and 80s. Champions League, first of all, Aston Villa, PSG, Ruffy, Borussia Dortmund, Barcelona.
PSG, the only time I've not stuck by them. And they're looking like no bad.
Well, I think they could win it this year.
They could win it.
Yeah, they get rid of all the big superstars, haven't they? So, yeah, they're looking the part.
Yeah.
That's on Amazon Prime, by the way, if anybody's got Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
You get it for nothing. You'll be able to watch it on Amazon Prime.
Is that what it's on?
It's on Amazon.
Yeah, you could spend an absolute
If your
fortune.
wife's got an Amazon account or girlfriend in it, and you can get it through that.
Well, my wife is almost certainly going to run away with the Amazon man. She knows him. She knows him firsthand.
My girlfriend's got it.
Yeah. Yeah, Ruffy, like you get away with that one. I think PSG will have enough to see off Aston Villa, even at Villa Park.
Yes, they'll go through it. And my tip from a long time ago, and I'm on it, 9-1, Barcelona.
Yes, 9-1. How much? Tenner?
30 quid.
No.
30 quid.
Do you know what the other thing about it Ruffy said to me, and this is a God's honest as well? You do gamble responsibly, don't you?
Yes,
Yep, absolutely. Well, we're worried about you.
No.
Barcelona 4-0.
Yeah,
they're not going to throw it away, are they?
And they've got the right end of the draw now. They don't play anybody at the final.
Yeah, okay, so that's one night, and then the next night, Inter, Bayern Munich. I think Bayern Munich, Kane might have blown it.
Yeah, Inter are one of these sides, you know, you don't want to get them. let them get in front of you, because you've got to break them down, and they're very, very difficult.
Yeah.
I think Inter will go through. I wasn't impressed by them.
Yeah. By the way, I can remember taking my daughter. We went down to Liverpool to see them against Real Madrid, and watched Real Madrid just spank them. And that was after Liverpool had gone 2-0 up. Ruffy, do not rule out Real Madrid turning this around.
What was the year with PSG and Real Madrid? Or was it Barcelona?
It was Barcelona.
They were 4 up.
Yeah.
And they get beat 5-4.
This is
Mbappe suspended, by the way, because he got sent off for a shocker last night. Does that not count?
I don't think that counts, actually. But the Bernabeu, you've got to say, it's Ruffy, we've been there. I'll never forget Ruffy's insightful commentary when Celtic were playing against Real Madrid, and after 2 minutes, Ruffy said, you know, Celtic looked good in that initial 2 minutes until Real Madrid scored. They could do it.
No chance.
No?
No chance.
No? Arsenal through?
No chance. Arsenal stick on.
Ruffy?
I'd be a nervous Arsenal supporter.
So would I.
Arsenal battered them at home, by the way. That could have been 5 or 6.
Yeah. And Dublin says Real definitely decent chance versus Arsenal. Gunners think they've got 1 foot in the final. Who knows? Absolutely. That's the joy of it. Thank you to so many of you. Maestro says Arsenal will score in Madrid. That's the great joy of it all. It's a PSG Barca final.
I think
that'd
be some final.
That would be a great final.
The 2 best teams.
Where is it this year?
It's in the Allianz Arena. And remember, Ruffy, we'll be there. Kerry and myself going, wherever you are. We are. So really looking forward to that. Don't forget to give us your thoughts. 2 people think it's going to be Athletic Bilbao, and I think Rangers might just nick it on a penalty shootout. Who knows? It's all about opinions. Hopefully you've enjoyed it on the podcast. And if you get the chance, hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. There's lots of great stuff coming up. We've got a little mini documentary on Motherwell, and of course that growing clamour for people to go and enjoy a pint of beer at the games. We were in at the Motherwell beer garden. It was absolutely fantastic to see the Well fans enjoying themselves. We've got a little feature on that coming up. We've got obviously that top 6, bottom 6 nail biter, a little look at that in a documentary. And we've got Falkirk on the verge of winning the championship and heading back to the Premiership as well. So many different bits of content for you to enjoy. Tam and the Footballers Football Show, Ruffy and myself and Alison as well, and all our reporters out at the grounds this weekend. Scottish Cup semi-finals to look forward to. So many people will be reporting on all the big games for you, keeping you up to date with Scottish football and what's happening down south, and of course in the Champions League and Europa League and the Conference League. Blair Malloy, our reporter, is going to be out there in Spain giving his reports this week all the way up to the big game, Athletic Bilbao against Rangers. Thank you for listening and watching today.